Hello everybody! Now if you guys have been joining me over on my Instagram throughout the year, my Instagram handle is someplace up here, then you've probably watched my stories where I've been talking about the Disney Decades Collection. Now in case you don't know what the Disney Decades Collection is every single month they've been releasing something from a different Disney decade in honor of the 100 years. They started off with the 1920s and they've gone all the way up until the 2010s, with of course 2023 being the end of the 100 years. They haven't had anything for the 2020s, but all those other years they have had some sort of representation for the decade with different pins or backpacks, ears, or the thing that we're going to be talking about right now, the plushes. Now, I've always collected some Disney plushes, not a whole lot. However, at the start of the series, I said, you know what? With the 1920s, the first two characters they had was Minnie Mouse and Mickey Mouse from Steamboat Willie. And I was like, if I'm going to get any of them, I'm going to get these two, because I have a Steamboat Willie stuffed animal, but I never had one of Minnie from the cartoon as well. So I said, I'll get that one, and I'll probably just cut it there, and then at the very end of the year, I'll go through and I'll get whatever the 2010s is to kind of have it so I bookend both things. But then, the following month, they came out with the 1930s. So of course, Steamboat Willie came out in 1928. In the 1930s, I was trying to figure out what they would do, and I was thinking maybe they'll have like the Seven Dwarfs or something cool like that. But you do see a lot of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs merchandise. And then they came out with the 1930s. The 1933 Silly Symphony cartoon, The Three Little Pigs, where they didn't just have one, but all three of the Three Little Pigs. And of course, I had to get them because, one, I love the Silly Symphonies. Two, I love the Three Little Pigs. And three, you never see merchandise with these guys. And I was like, you know what? I'll get the 1920s, I'll get the 1930s, and then I'll get the 2010s to book it as well. Then, for the 1940s, the following month, they came out with another thing that I just did not expect to happen, because for the 1940s, I was thinking the movies are just really obscure. Maybe they'll do the Three Caballeros. And then they did characters that I never have seen before in merchandise. We had not just one, not just two, not just three or four, but 5 of the Pegasus horses from the 1940 classic film Fantasia. Like, this is Peter Pegasus, if you didn't already know. So all of a sudden I was like, okay, at this point I have a problem, because I can't go 1920s, 1930s, 1940s. If 1950s is something cool, I have to get 1950s as well. And then they came out with the merchandise for the 1950s. And by the way, when I talk about this, all of the time when they kept on releasing these things, I would not look at it until the day of, because I was like, I'm not going to get, anxious or figure out if I want this or not. I'm going to figure out in the moment when I get to the store if I want this. And then in the 1950s, they brought out something that I never thought, again, I would have ever seen merchandise on. And that was the Shaggy Dog from the film, the 1959 classic, The Shaggy Dog. I know, really original. But he's in his little leather jacket. It's the exact same character, or the same exact design, as he appears on the poster for the 1959 film. Side note, I also find it really kind of entertaining that the fact that Fantasia to the Shaggy Dog is 19 years apart from one another, so it's actually the biggest time frame that you could actually have between two movies. So Fantasia, then we get the Shaggy Dog, and you know where this is going, because if I'm going to have the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, at this point I said I'm just going to buy all of these, and that is going to be my money for the year, where I'm just going to go broke and have all of them. So the 1960s, we got our next ones, which was Madame Medusa, or I'm sorry, Madame Mim. Madame Medusa's from The Rescuers. This is Madame Mim from The Sword and the Stone in dragon form, along with Merlin as a mouse from the movie as well. Again, you never see these characters in merchandise form. So at this point, I was thinking, not only am I going to collect this entire series, but I am insanely happy with the series that I have so far. So, I'm dropping ones. So in 1970s, I was thinking, if I could have one dream come true of the characters that were involved in this year, it would have to be the film that completely changed the trajectory of my life, The Rescuers. I love The Rescuers. I love Bernard. I love Bianca. I even had a little drone back before drones were a thing, where it was a flying dragonfly, and I named it Evinrude after the dragonfly in the thing. Well, guess what? We got Evinrude, we got Bernard and Bianca all in a leaf from the 1977 classic film, The Rescuers. What? So these were like my dream ones to have, and I was so happy that they popped up. So when I came to the 1980s, I started to try to make my predictions on which characters it would be. I was really betting on Gurgi from The Black Cauldron from 1985. However, instead, we got the very first film I ever saw in theaters when little Brent was only 4 years old, which was Oliver and Dodger from Oliver and Company. So overall, completely winning in life. Actually, I'm winning right now, too, with all these little stuffed animals. Oh, I love it so much. So then in the 1990s, if you know me at all, if you've ever watched like the Wednesday show where we go through, one of the topics we talk about a lot is the Disney afternoon. I was obsessed with the Disney afternoon. I'm obsessed with things like DuckTales and Tailspin and Rescue Rangers. And of course, the next character that appeared in 1991 originally, which is Darkwing Duck. When there's trouble you call DW, Darkwing Duck. Let's get dangerous. So we had Darkwing Duck for the 1990s, and then when we got to the year 2000, I was trying to figure out exactly which characters would appear in the year 2000, because the 2000s have so many amazing characters like, obviously, like Tiana, and I started to bank on the fact that we would have Tiana and Naveen in frog form, and then I started to think maybe we'd have something from like obscure movies like Meet the Robinsons or the cows from Home on the Range, and then they gave me the character that I did not know I wanted in life, but I was so happy I got in life. And that is Yzma, not as a human, but as a cat. Is that my voice? Look at her. She's got the potion in her hand. I love her so much. So by the time we got to the 2000s, I was getting pretty sad because today, or I guess now technically it's going to be yesterday when you're watching this video, they released the very final plush in this entire collection, and I was partially excited because I knew I was going to be a little richer after this month because I wouldn't be spending all my money on, different stuffed animals for Disney. But I was also very excited to find out which character it would be. Again, I don't look into this at all beforehand, so going into the actual store today, I was trying to make my predictions on who it would be, and my money was on Pua or Hey from Moana, or I was thinking maybe Bruni or Olaf from Frozen or Frozen 2. But then we got another character that I was so excited about because not only is it a character that most of the movie we see as an adult, but we also see them as a kid for part of it, and they are such an adorable child in the movie. And we have none other than Judy Hopps as a child in her police outfit, dreaming to be a police officer someday. A bunny cop, who knew? All these stuffed animals, who knew? I don't know where I'm going to put all these things, but at the same time, I figured we should go through this entire collection because I absolutely love this collection from start to finish. Now, there were other things in the Decades collection like pins and backpacks and all the other stuff I said, but I did make sure throughout the year that I would limit it to either movies that I absolutely loved that were represented. The only thing that I got besides these was the 1990s pin, which was a Disney Afternoon pin. Like I said, I love Disney Afternoon, hence Darkwing Duck. But overall, I could not be happier with my collection for the Disney 100. This is going to be the only collection I do. I mean, obviously I got like the hat and I got some other stuff, but this is the only part of the Disney Decades collection that I said I had to do from start to finish, and I am so happy that I did. So, if you're not already subscribed to this channel, make sure you subscribe because, maybe the views from this will help me pay off all the stuffed animal debt that I've gone into over the last 12 months. But if you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe, and we will see you once again tomorrow. Oh yeah. Look, a bunny cop.